that now. There you go, everyone. And then let's go on to our second question here. What is something that you as a coach have learned by coaching athletes in the lead up to their big events? Sarah, would you like to start?
Well, I think it goes like kind of hand in hand with what I'm saying, that there can be a lot of pressure that people put on themselves for these big events, and then conversely, or like because of that, athletes will get really caught up in individual workouts, especially as we get into that specificity training, or we get closer to the event. And then, if there's a little bit of pain in the knee that makes you have to call a run short, that can feel like really, like, oh no, what does this mean about my race and what's going to happen in the race? So I think that that's something I've really noticed, that if we, there's that, it's like a thin line, because we want to get excited. We want to have goals. We want things to drive us and to like push us to challenge our limits and challenge ourselves. But we also don't want to put so much emphasis on those events. And so I think that's something that just I've noticed in general with athletes, like that the closer that it gets and the realer it gets, we can sort of get that tunnel vision and put maybe too much emphasis on an individual workout. So continuing that, trying to hold things lightly, kind of our theme we've been talking about lately.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It makes a lot of sense. But to kind of, I guess, get away from the pressure aspect of things, something that I've learned as a coach from other athletes is sometimes it helps to kind of take a break every now and then and kind of get back to why you're doing what you're doing. I know we talk about your why as it pertains, like why you run, why are you training for this, but almost to like the daily or even weekly why are we doing this, when we are doing this kind of thing. And that's really helped me as a coach with my athletes, because I personally only like to write maybe 2 to 4 weeks at a time with my logs, because all of us know that so much can change in such a short period of time with your training, whether you need more rest or less rest, or heaven forbid an injury, or it's just something happens. And so it can really throw everything out of influx by writing out like 6 months worth of plan. I don't know that I would advise that for anyone, but being able to go through as an athlete, if you see that you've only got like 4 weeks and you don't really see what's after that, sometimes people need to know, like, this is the end and this is where we're at now, but maybe can you tell me about your plan? Can you tell me about what you're doing? And even if it's not written, what are some benchmarks or goals or signs that we're headed the right direction? So really emphasize that it might be a good idea to talk to your coach about that kind of thing, just so you guys are on the same page and you understand what the plan looks like long term. But anyway, we can go on to next question here, really flying through these. I told you all it'll be a short day. What is something you as an athlete have learned about yourself through racing a recent event? Man, so I think it's no secret, I love racing. That's almost the reason I run, which may be a super unhealthy reason to run, but I love racing. Like, it's like my passion. If there was no such thing as like racing against other people, I don't know that I would run as much as I do. So that being said, I think my last race, due to a variety of reasons, my last race was last fall. It's been almost a year since I've run an actual event. And it was one of those deals where like pandemic led to kind of like you start on your own whenever you want between like this time frame. So I started as soon as I could, which meant it was dark. I'm running like through like a paved trail through the woods that was pitch black outside with, let's be real, like a pretty shitty headlamp. It was just a crazy deal. And during that event, I caught myself a few times during my race running by myself out there thinking like, I do this to like race other people and this isn't working out like I wanted to. And it was kind of an epiphany, like, like running is so much more than just racing. Like I don't need to race to be able to like show myself that I'm capable. And I don't need to race to show myself that I'm valuable. And I don't need to, you know, honestly, I don't need to run fast all the time just to enjoy running. And so it's crazy that that came to me during a race, because that's honestly something that I would hope comes to everyone a lot sooner than just, you know, you've been running for like 30 years and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I should do this because I like it, not because I like demolishing people. But I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing, but I learned that about a year ago, almost exactly now. And it's really stuck with me. And since then I haven't raced, not that I won't race again, but I've really tried to pump the brakes a little bit and just really get back to the love of running, if that makes sense.
So my most recent race was my first 100-mile race. I really learned how to lean on my supports. So I had to be super vulnerable in the lead up to that race to ask people to travel with me and give up their weekends and money to stay in a house and to be away from their kids and to rent a car. And like, I have never been more uncomfortable in my life asking people to do something, because like, what's in it for them? Right? Like I couldn't like wrap my mind around it, and it felt very vulnerable. And like people totally showed up in really big ways. And then they like 100% were present and into it at my race. And like, I really believe I needed folks that day. Like I was hallucinating and not in my right mind. And so I don't know that I would have had success if I had been alone. And so, you know, just like all of that for me was a learning experience. One, just the process itself of putting yourself out there and asking for support. That's always a good thing to practice, and we can always learn in that. But also it's just like great to learn like about my supports and who like that they were there for me. And that's part of this for them, the same way that I would show up for them. And to understand, and also I had to know like what I needed. I had to be able to plan for my race, envision what I was going to need in a circumstance I had never been in before. What do I want at mile 85? And what am I going to need? Right. And so learning how to communicate those needs. So reflecting with myself and really paying attention to my training races and trying to anticipate my own needs, and then learning how to communicate those to other people in a way that was like effective and felt good, and like also left room for like, also I don't know what I'm talking about because I've never done this before, so this is my best guess. So yeah, I would say like a lot of those practical skills more than racing skills were something I learned in my last race.
No, that's really awesome. I feel like when it comes to, and you are a much more accomplished ultra marathoner than I am. Let's just say that right off the bat. So I've never run a step further than 50 miles, and you doubled that in one run. So I am in awe of you. But I feel like something that maybe could put your mind at ease when it comes to, you know, asking people for help, because it's something that you hadn't done before. Not that it will ever be easier necessarily, but is like picking the right people, like the people that know you best to be able to get you what you maybe don't even know that you need in the middle of a race. Those people aren't going to turn you down. Those people aren't going to feel bad about it. Those people are excited to get out there and be with you and help you along the way. I believe that's the case. How many people did you have crew with you?
I had one full crew person, so she did all the crew, and then one pacer. So, you know, two people, and that was perfect. And then, yeah, a couple other friends who were there, but yeah, it was two. I'm on mute. Sorry. Did you hear any of that? I don't know how much I was muting. Yeah, two people who came for the sole purpose of helping me, and that's it.
That's awesome. When I got to come to Leadville to help coach Zoe in her 100-miler, it was such a cool experience for me. I've never run a race long enough to need a pacer. I've obviously like paced people, but more like race stuff. Like I want a PR in the half marathon, be like, well, stick on my back and let's just go do this. But pacing as it pertains to ultra marathoning is so different, and crewing is so different than anything else. So I learned a lot when we went out to Leadville, and we had a huge crew. We had TJ and Kristen and one of my friends here in Arkansas, Lauren, and her husband. Like we were like rolling. We thought we were like the bee's knees, like professional crew team. So funny, but man, it's so cool that you did that with just, I mean, really, to me, 2 people isn't much. I feel like that's really minimal as it pertains to pacing and crewing, but it sounds like they did a great job because you straight up did it well. I remember talking, there was a call, like maybe it was the Monday call after your 100 that day, and you were just like all smiles, like, yep, I just did this, no big deal. I'd be like in a hospital, to be honest with you.
Well, when you were just saying that, it made me realize another really big thing I learned that day, like the hard way. It was my pacer is a super fast road marathoner, like a woman who's never run above a 3-hour marathon, just like fast.
Wow.
So I'm like, sweet, this woman's strong as hell. And I've run trail runs with her, like 18-mile trail runs where she's just like boop, 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 up the mountain, whatever. Well, the thing is, I had her pace me for 8 hours. Well, this is a woman who's never had to run longer than 3 hours. So she's strong and she's fast, but she had no clue what the body goes through during an 8-hour run. And I hadn't thought to prepare her for that because it just wasn't like on my radar of things to do. So like that, she did great and it was great and we finished. And then she like totally fell apart the next day and had a really difficult time adjusting to all the hormones and everything. And so like when, this question was about like lessons learned, and like 100%, prepping my pacer and like really making sure that they know, like, this is not a 3-hour like road run, this is a whole different beast.
That's so awesome. Still in awe. Yeah. So I know we kind of got off on a tangent there a little bit, but anytime anybody talks about 100-miler that they've done, I am so intrigued. Like everyone on this call, I feel like everyone in Microcosm has done like 100-miler. And I know that that's not the case, but like we have so many really gifted runners in this team. And it's just so cool to be on calls with you guys. Anyway, next question. Let's get into it. What is something that you've learned as a coach or athlete that you've taken into life? Yeah, that you've taken into life outside of running and training. Something that we've taken into life outside of running and training. Oh gosh, I might have to think about this one for a second. I am obviously not prepared. This is a good one. I think generally speaking, running teaches us so many lessons about patience and hardships and relationships and all kinds of really cliche stuff that we, take into life beyond running, beyond training, beyond racing. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Sarah?
Yeah, I think that the most important skills that I get from running that I am able to transfer to the rest of my life are attention and self-awareness. And running provides ample opportunities for me to learn about myself and to practice mindfulness and to tune into my body and like have really like in-depth understanding about the different ways that my body communicates with me when it communicates stress and pain with me. Like all of those, I feel like I have a pretty good self-awareness at this point, and I think a lot of it comes from running. So I think that's really, for me, a really big part of it. Like all of that intro, like the self-knowledge, the self-awareness, and then the ability to like take that inner understanding and apply it to like the different situations that we find ourselves in.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I think that, running for so long, for so many people was such a like a social sport, so to speak. And then really, and I know we keep talking about the pandemic, but this is like a major, deal in our history, in our lives. It's really changed a lot of the way we do a lot of things. And so I keep going back to, like, because of this pandemic, I know myself and I know several others in Microcosm as well, we don't run in big groups like we used to, not as often as we used to anyway. And so I think something that I've really learned through running is the importance of, like, me time. Like, I have the most supporting, awesome wife. I've got two beautiful children. I've got my groups of friends that I used to run with literally on a daily basis. And I think that recently, in the last year and a half or whatever, really trying to get down and running by myself more has really taught me to do, like, what you're saying, Sarah, and really kind of look inward and be more self-aware, but also realize how healthy that is. That sometimes whether you run or whether you don't run, just for whatever's going on in life, to still have that time and to continue to be self-aware and understand that it's important for all of us to take that time to look inward. To it doesn't even have to be meditation, really. It can be just that looking inward, or just deep thought, thinking about your day, thinking about what's going on. I think is such a healthy activity. And I know, like, as it pertains to mental health, Sarah, you're the professional there, but I've really gained a lot in my personal life from a lot of the lessons that I've learned with running by myself in the last year and a half, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, so a lot of people go to running because of the benefit, the physical and mental health benefits, and any sort of physical movement, is really good for mental health. But I think running is something unique and special, and it just gives you so much of that time. And like you said, it doesn't even have to be like intended mindfulness, but like it is, like, if you're just listening to your breath or focused on the sounds around you or listening to your footsteps, like that just is mindfulness. It's sort of like not even on purpose, but we're like we're just in the present moment, which is really what it's all about. And I think that's really the big thing, is like running allows you just to be present and like not worried about what you did yesterday, problem in the future, just in the present moment.
It makes a lot of sense. I feel like at one time early in my running career, when I was more immature than I am now, just thinking that running was a way to, like, get away from your problems. And that, to me now, looking inward, it couldn't seem any further from the truth. That oftentimes running is a tool, or really any physical activity, right? Is a tool to maybe help you understand a lot of what's going on in the world around you. An opportunity to really, like, think deeply and think earnestly and think honestly, and come up with a plan to do what you need to do. Personally, I know my wife and I have a 4-month-old here at home that presents its challenges, like sleep and finances, having to pay for this or that. I mean, it's little deals here and there. And I know that running and walking, my wife is a big walker, and I try to walk with her a few days a week, and it gives us an opportunity to, like, all right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Let's figure this out. And by the time we know it, we've walked for like an hour, and we find solutions to our, problems. And I don't know that we would be as clear-minded or clear in thought as we would be if we weren't taking that time to get out. And I'm a big believer in breathing fresh air and getting outside. I don't know how people do all of, like, their training on a treadmill. I understand that certain parts of the world you have to, but being outside, getting that fresh air, doing what you do is just so important, I feel.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, Drew, but so I'm a therapist, and one of the types of therapy that I offer is walk and talk or trail therapy. So we actually like hike while I do therapy, because I believe so much that movement and being outdoors and just that rhythmic walking or running movement can just be so healing in and of itself.
I know that there's something to that, because I swear some of the best conversations you have with a group of individuals is always on a run. I always used to joke with the guys I run, it's like, what's said on the run stays on the run. It's because everyone just feels your barriers are broken down. You can really get through. That is an amazing idea as it pertains to therapeutic reasons. That's amazing.
I was wondering, there aren't so many people on the call today. I was wondering if maybe anyone had their own answers for some of these questions about either a lesson that you learned in a training block, or a lesson that you learned preparing for a race, or a lesson that running has given that you feel like you've taken out into your life. Because although Drew and I have our experiences, we, as he said at the beginning, we're not the only athletes on this call, and you all have your lived and learned experience that we would love to learn from.
And sharing can be difficult, and that's totally fine. We don't have to jump into that right now. But know that when we have these calls, everyone is free to speak up whenever they want on any call.
All right, James, let's hear what you have.
Hey, yeah, so I've been running for a little over 10 years now, and I've learned a lot, but mostly that there will always be more races to run. So pushing through an injury for one training cycle for one race is a horrible decision, and a lesson that I've had to relearn over and over and over again. But in the grand scheme of things, missing a week or a month or even a year because of an injury or something else going on in your life isn't that big of a deal. You can always return to running.
And that is such a mature, like veteran thing to say, really, because you're absolutely right. A lot of people, it takes so long to learn just that, you can take time off, you can miss something, you can do what you need to do for overall long-term success or long-term growth. That if something happens like an injury and you're not really able to do what you want in the short term, it's not the end of the world. Like there's more fights to fight, so to speak. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing, James. And it looks like a question in the chat deal, or a comment in the chat deal here. It says, I've learned to not take myself so seriously and put so much stress on any one event. Yes. That honestly, a lot of these concepts we're talking about for a lot of folks take years to develop, and just so many, maybe it's injuries or poor races or whatever the series is. Like, it can take years and years and years to figure this all out. And yeah, it's easy to talk about now, but actually implementing this is a little bit more difficult, but you guys are all over it. That is awesome. Gotcha. Anybody else in the chat box? I know we just got a few others on here. Yeah, Morgan, go ahead.
I've learned a lot of self-compassion and just forgiving myself, when things don't go according to plan, which I feel has really transferred to my life with my partner and in my work, especially. I notice myself kind of just brushing off things that when they don't go perfectly, and just forgiving myself for that.
That is amazing. Awesome. Forgiveness for others and forgiveness for yourself. Honestly, again, Sarah's the mental health expert, but that's got to be one of the hardest things to do. So James's answer, Morgan, it takes so long for people to learn that. So I'm so happy that you understand that now. It makes everything easier moving forward.
I was just going to hop on and say, I think the number one thing for me has been, especially since joining Microcosm over the last year and a half, has just been being able to take the consistency that we kind of take to our training into just pretty much any other area in life. And you're not going to get something great out of doing something for a week or two or even a month. And it's just interesting to apply just consistently building blocks over small periods of time. And before you know it, you're a year and a half into a training log. and just seeing gains that just kind of extrapolate over time. And it's interesting. I've been helping a friend of mine that's like kind of new into running, using stuff I've learned to just help build a base for him. And he already wants to run a 50K. And I'm just like, dude, slow down, please. Like, chill out for 1 second. We'll get there. But I think just consistency, you can carry that into anything.
Absolutely correct. Consistency is key. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It can be work, relationship, your training. Literally, if you are inconsistent, it sets a pattern that can be hard to break and hard to get out of, and just makes everything more difficult, in my opinion.
And when you are consistent, what's so great is that it allows you, it takes the pressure off of so many things. Like, I think I used to worry so much about missing a workout, and then I very rarely do now. But then when I do, I don't worry about it at all. It's just such an easy thing to let go of, because I know I've got 900 other bricks in that wall, and this one workout's not going to do anything.
Yeah, agreed. And I like in the chat box says, another one of building off of Sarah's previous comments about her support team. I've learned to look for my community in all aspects of life. So true. Obviously, community is incredibly important, almost maybe just as important as consistency. And what is important to have that support is also to give that support. And so if any of you find yourselves, I guess, having a hard time finding community, finding people to build and support you, I've found it personally easy to find people to support me by, the people that I support. It kind of goes both ways. And so I love that the aspect of community, and generally speaking in life, was mentioned. That's so important. Awesome, guys. Well, again, I know it's a short call, but before we jump off, I just wanted to remind everyone that next week's calls, I do not believe we are having a Friday call next week. I think that bumps into Thanksgiving time-ish. Maybe I got my weeks wrong, but next Monday, a week from today, we will be having a call. It's more of like a gratitude call. I haven't been part of a gratitude call before, so I'm kind of interested to see how this goes. I know that on the Facebook page, TJ has posted a link to last year's call, so you can kind of see what to expect. I am getting the impression that he does like feedback. He likes everyone talking and just briefly describing what they're gracious for, they're thankful for, and I really like the idea. And so please tune in on Monday if you're able, and be a part of our microcosm community. Sarah, anything from you to end the call?
No, but we're all super grateful for all of you guys, and really hope that you guys can participate next week.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Sarah. And I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.